Good morning. How you doing? I am 4 minutes late, so I humbly ask for your forgiveness. But yeah, today's gonna be an interesting day, a long week for me. Uh, I am literally running a million miles in like 12 different directions all at the same time. But I definitely want to get on and talk to you today. Um, yeah. So today we're talking about I am so busy. I ain't even put up the caption, but I will put up the image just so you can see, just in case those who are just now coming in. We're talking about the power of creation. We're talking about the power of creation. And I'm going to put up there, I'm going to put a caption that I'm interested in you answering, not just looking at it, because this definitely ain't show and tell. Not this one. It's definitely not show and tell. But I want to see, like, how do you create? Do you have the power? So this is my question right now. Do you feel you have the power to create? By the time we finish with today's podcast, you will know if you have the power to create or not. You will know if you have designed the environment for you to create. And if you haven't designed the environment for it to create, it is always going to be hard for you to uh, develop what it is that's next for you. Peace. Good morning, Miss Scott. We're definitely not going to be on long today because I'm already 4 minutes late. I'm not going to call it late. I am on time. I am on time because whenever the message is received, it's received on time. So I will reverse that order and I will create it as an on time message because it is a message that is on this particular time. So how you receive it is in time, it is in the moment, and it is created just for you. All right, like always, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say I appreciate you because I do 101,000%. I appreciate every time that you tap in and check in here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. But we're going to go ahead and get into it because we're talking about the power of creation. We have too many conversations, but not enough creation. We have created so much dialogue, but not enough action that goes behind the creation and what you create. We're talking about how do you create inside of yourself, inside of your mind, and what you do in order to develop what it is that you're striving to become. All right, so the first definition that I want you to pay attention to is it says the act. Put the word creation inside the chat. It says the act of processing, of bringing something into existence. Again, the definition says the act of processing, of bringing something into existence. And the inversion that I want you to pay attention to today is red over white, which is action something into existence. Action something into existence, because if there is something that you want to create, it is going to take action in order to do it. And I think I can invert this, and I think I am. So I will start with red over white, and then I will go with white over red. If you see it as white over red, then go ahead and put your own um, analogy or your own way of seeing it. If you see as if it attracts you more with white over red, then I want to see what you come up with. But my first eye has drawn me to red over white, which is action something into existence. Because I'm really about action. I am really about the results, and I'm really about how do you create something? You create it by creating it. Because when we spend too much time on talking about what we want to create, don't you know that there is no creation in it because it's just a conversation? It is an idea without action. It is just faith. That's why it says faith without works is dead. It is dead because you're not putting the hand on the plow in order for something to action itself into existence, in order for that thing to create it into something that is tangible, into existence. And then let's flip it. Let's go white over red. White over red says the or process of bringing. So if there is a process of bringing, that means that there is something that has to go through the steps in order for it to be brought into what it is that you want it to be. Like if you want to, I don't know, learn social media. So the process of bringing it, meaning you have to go and do it. You have to go and learn it. You have to study it. You have to create an environment for you to begin the process of studying it. And you're going to have to post something. You're going to have to advertise something. You're going to have to learn how to create the graphics, learn how to develop the ad copy. You're going to have to process bringing it into existence. So it's not just the conversation, it's what are you actioning in order for it to materialize, to come to pass. That's just the inversion, the white over red. And then we have already spoken and communicated about the red over white. So let's go with the next definition. The next definition, it says the act of making, inventing, or producing. And the inversion on this, of course, is real simple. It's white over red, which is the act of making or producing. Because if there is something that you want, you're going to have to make it. That's why it says the act, because the act is the root word of action. Because it is something that it starts with inside of you, and the act, that means you're doing it. The act of making, not the act of waiting, but the act of making. Like, what have you been waiting on that you know that you should have done a long time ago? Like, that's the real question. Like, what have you waiting on? What have you been waiting on that you know you should have done a long time ago? Like, probably could have been starting I don't know, 401k or start on the stock market, or start to go running, start eating different, whatever it is, the act of making. So after you have created the process of thought, now it goes into the act of making and producing. You have to produce it. It's not just the conversation anymore. It's way past the conversation. It's way past journaling. You have already written it down. Like, what else do you need to do? The thing that you need to do next is what? The act of making, because it has already been written down. Like, you've already wrote it down. Like, what else? Like, what are you waiting for? It has already came out of your mind and came out of your mouth. And now it is written down on paper. It is waiting for you to produce it. Like, what are you afraid of? What have gotten you to the point that fear has begun to totally consume and assume its position in your life so prominent that you no longer are producing? How long are you going to continue to cry the tears that nobody wants to help you, but you're not helping yourself because you don't want to exercise the act of making? Nobody want to support my business. Do you support it? Nobody even sees me all day. Who do you see? Like, do you see yourself? Or are you waiting for somebody else to make you feel different? Are you waiting for somebody else to make you feel happy? Are you waiting for somebody else to validate you? Are you waiting for, or are you going to produce the validation that you need for yourself? Are you going to create what needs to be made for you? That's the power of creation. Like, I can create my own happiness by ensuring that I do the things that I love. I do the things that I like. I do the things that produce the smile. I do the things that produce the laughter. I go to places that produce the energy. I don't wait for someone else to bring the energy to me. I create the energy that I want in the room. Like, are you making the energy that you want in the room? Do you create the room, or are you waiting to be in somebody else's room? Are you creating the environment, or are you going into other people's environment and being victim to the environment that you're in because you didn't create the environment for yourself? Like, there's a lot of people that that fall victim to someone else's inability to make them happy because they have forgotten how to make themselves happy. They've forgotten how there are still a priority. You are the priority of your priorities. No one don't have to tell you that you, or no one doesn't have to prioritize you. You are the priority to you. Then everything else after that is shared space. I'm gonna get off on that one. All right. So let's go ahead and begin the process into the deep dive. I know it seemed kind of like this one is short, but it's okay. It's not short. It's enough. It's enough because we're talking about the power of creation. Like, what does your world look like? Like for real. Like outside of social media, what does your world look like? Like outside of when your friends is no longer around, what does your world look like? What does it look like when you in your closet? What does it look like when you're in the shower? What does it look like when you're in the bathroom? What does it look like when it's just you driving in the car? Like, what is your world? I just want to tell you that you have the power to create. The power to create is really yours, but are you willing to go ahead and do it? Because the power of creation is the opposite of destruction. Haven't you been in enough pain? Haven't you been in enough sorrow? Haven't you have had enough disappointment? So you're going to have to face that and then oppose it. You got Joker said, I got ops. Like, okay, maybe you're the op. Maybe you are your own opposition. Maybe it's you. You can't point the finger at somebody else because maybe you need to look in the mirror and see, are you opposing to your own success? Have you pushed yourself down in the ditch because you wanted everybody to pay attention to you when you cry? But can you pay attention to you that you've cried enough? The power of creation is the opposite of destruction. And I don't want you to confuse it with materialization. Because true power, true creation is the power of thought, and materialization is the creation of what the thought goes into form. Like if I take my thought and I say, I want to fold and make a paper airplane, it has to be a created thought that I want to fold a paper airplane this way. I want to create a glider, or I want to create it as a jet plane. So now I allowed my thoughts to say, go get a paper and take the paper and then fold it up to what you want it to be. Now it becomes materialized. But first, it is a thought of creation. I must create the thought before the thought becomes with form. Like, can I materialize my thoughts? What shape am I going to do, and how am I going to action that into its physical form? That is the materialization, which is the physical form. The true creation is the process of thought. Like one thing that we were taught as a leader in the military, like especially when we go and we're counseling soldiers, the one thing they always told us was prepare the setting. Like prepare the setting. That's like creating the atmosphere for the conversation, creating a suitable place to grow. Like, have you created that suitable place for you, or have you always found yourself because you victimize your own process of growth? You have so much going on inside of your head that it doesn't even allow it to facilitate the conversations that you need to have with you. Does your mental space allow you to facilitate creation or creativity? Because remember, the power of creation starts within the process of the mind. It starts with your thoughts. Because if you can't think about it, you won't materialize it. It won't happen until the power of thought is acknowledged, that it is a thought of mind. It is a power of creation. Because if you're ever going to create, you must also give yourself room for creation. Like, think about it. Like, what have you read in the past 30 days that would help you to create? Remember, you're giving yourself room for creation. You're making room for creation. So if you're making room for creation, there is something that you're going to have to omit if you're ever going to create. The power of creation still comes with the power of omitted. You have to omit something in order for you to have room for those positive thoughts. In order for you to have room for that smile, you're going to have to let go of that pain. You're going to have to acknowledge where the pain is, and then you're going to have to walk away from that pain if you're going to give power to the smile that you know that you naturally have. Like, what conversations have you had in the past week that will actually facilitate fruitful creation? Or was it more destructive than it was constructive? That comes with the self examination. Like, we have more people that are quoting affirmations than we have people that are actually creating them. Like, think about it. We have too many people that want to quote these affirmations without creation, because your affirmations are words, but then you have to action those words to create them as a reality. It looks good for you to put a little sticky note and put it on your mirrors and put it all over the house. Man, you made a mess. Until you give shape to the affirmation, it will never take form. It would never manifest itself. It will never materialize into something tangible, because you want to stay in the world of words. The world of words are created, but when you take words into action, that is the act of making and producing. Just like in the previous definition of creation, the act of making or producing or action something into existence. Some of y'all talk too long, but you haven't done anything after you have release the last word out of your mouth. The last syllable should have been done, and now it goes into the first act of creating. Because your power to create, and I want you to pay attention to this, your power to create, it comes from your discovery, it comes from your abilities, and it comes from your capability. Because when you have the power to create, you're discovering that you got it. You're discovering that moment in that space that you found yourself in, that new space that you might have found yourself in. And then you're telling yourself, I have the ability to smile now because I've created this space for me, or I have walked away from that relationship, or I have walked into a new place in my life, so I have the ability to laugh again. And I do not just have the ability to laugh again, but I have the capacity to fill every room that I'm in with good thoughts, because my mind is thinking different. I want to be happy, so I'm going to do the things that make me happy. That's the discovery, the ability, and the capacity to do it over again. So I read something this morning, and it says one of the greatest human abilities is the imagination. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, okay, well, let me flip that a little bit. I was like, one of the greatest human abilities is the imagination for creation. Like, where does your imagination take you? What do you see yourself? How do you see yourself creating this year? Like, what are you preparing to create if you haven't created it already? If you already created it, so that means you have discovered the power of creation actually is working for you. Now you have to go into the other parts. You have to go into the abilities and the capacity to create again. That goes into your abilities and your capacity because you've created it. So that lets you know that you have the ability to create. So now can you do it again? Do you have the mental capacity to do it again? And one thing that I want you to think about, especially as you begin to continue through your year, like, am I setting my settings for growth? Like, am I mentally prepared, or am I mentally allowing my settings to create? Like, if not, then maybe sometimes you need to sit back and do a little journaling, or put yourself in a space to where you're okay to figure things out and say, okay, I need to give myself room to create today. So that means if I'm going to give myself space, then my space that I may be giving myself is between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. So that's my space to create. So my creation space is from 12 to 1. So I'm writing down what I did before 12 to 1. I'm writing down what I need to do before I either go to work or before I get off of work, or what I need to do by, whenever. So you have to create that creation space for you to understand, like, what do I need to do next, and how did I get done what I've already completed? And then you go from there. So develop your creation space and then see how well you did, because that goes into your discovery. And the things that you have discovered that you have completed, now you know you have the ability. And now those things that you have discovered and you have the ability to do you have the capacity to do it again? That's when it's completely up to you. Like, have you learned that you actually have the capacity to smile? Then you're going to do it again because you like how I feel. All right, man, I appreciate y'all just for listening, being in this space, in this shared space here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 7:30, right here at Consistency is Currency. Peace.